I would like to introduce a wonderful gentleman who is going to be introducing our mayor. I just really can't say enough good things about our incredibly visionary and empowering board chair. He's the founding partner of Gaines and Stacy, LLP, and former mayor of Calabasas. I give you Alliance Board Chair Fred Gaines.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. The energy in the room is so fantastic today. It is so great to be back in person, together, convening here in the Valley, and the future is bright. And the future is bright because of the people in this room that are going to make it happen. And the Valley is the place that can lead all of Los Angeles, all of the state, all of this country back to the kind of place that we want to be, an inclusive place, a place where we work hard to resolve the issues of poverty and economic disparity, and where business and the economy and job creation is number one. So I just am so appreciative to all of you for being here, and so excited and really enthusiastic about what's happening today and about where we're going. So thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. I want to thank Dr. Beck and Lois Clavier for co-chairing this event. Putting this kind of event together takes a lot of time and effort, and Dr. Beck for hosting us here at Cal State Northridge, a beautiful facility. It's really worked out great, and so thank you very, very much. We are so pleased and honored to have her honor for the first time ever in Los Angeles, where you get to say her honor. The Honorable Mayor Karen Bass. Our next speaker made history in the city of Los Angeles by becoming the city's first female mayor, and we are very honored to have you with us here today and have you in the Valley today. You know, as a longtime Valley person, to have the new mayor, someone who's not from the Valley, to come out and be here with us, it's very important, and it means a lot to all of us, and we're so, so pleased. Karen Bass is the 43rd mayor of Los Angeles, with an agenda focused on bringing urgency, accountability, and a new direction to our great city. She has started her term with a focus on housing people immediately and increasing safety and opportunity in every part of Los Angeles. She's from the grassroots. She founded the Community Coalition in 1990 to organize predominantly Black and Latino residents of South Los Angeles against substance abuse, poverty, and crime, and to pioneer strategies to address the root causes behind the challenges faced by underserved neighborhoods. Mayor Bass represented Los Angeles in the State Assembly from 2004 to 2010, where she served as Speaker of the State Assembly, the first African-American woman to ever lead a state legislative body in the history of our country. She served in the United States Congress since 2011, where she helped protect small business during the pandemic, created policy to drive local jobs from federal infrastructure funding, and led the passage of what the LA Times called the most significant child welfare policy reform in decades. It is our great honor today to have with us the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, the Honorable Karen Bass.
Thank you, everyone.
So we're going to do a little fireside chat here. With, got a few questions. Let's start with what our organization is all about, and that is economic development. So what are your plans for your economic development operation? Will you be continuing with the mayor's business team programs, or what are your plans in that area?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I hope to come back many, many times. And it's true, I wasn't born in the Valley, but I have deep Valley roots. I've lived in the Valley, kids, grandkids, so I feel very connected. And one thing that I really learned on the campaign trail, I will tell you, hands down, the Valley is the most organized part of Los Angeles. Really. Very, very, which makes life very easy for me because it's so easy to tap into the layers of networks versus other parts of town that might not have this level of organization. It's difficult to have the type of communication that I believe I can have with the Valley. And so to me, the number one thing is to send the signal that LA is open for business. Because that's the other thing that I heard on the campaign trail. Two things from the business community. Either LA is not friendly to business or LA is hostile to business. And to me, I think obviously one of our biggest problems is the income disparity. And then the most extreme manifestation of that are tents on our streets. Well, the only way we're going to address that is good paying jobs. And who employs Angelenos other than small businesses? And so I will be hiring very soon a deputy mayor for business and putting together a business council. And what I have asked the various business organizations to do is to please come to the table and point out to me, what are your hurdles? What are the obstacles? What do we need to do to make LA more business friendly? Clearly, getting past all of the bureaucracy, whether you're talking about building something or whether you're talking about business, we absolutely have to do that. We need to centralize it and streamline it. But at the same time, we also need to have resources for businesses. So now I think today is 1 month that I've been in office. I had 3 short weeks to move from being a candidate to being a mayor. And so it's going to take me a minute. So what I asked of the business community is just have a little patience. Because on day 1, what I said I was going to do, I did, which was put the city in a state of emergency, because to me, 40,000 people on the street is an emergency, and it just kills me that we've acclimated as though it is not. So we put the city in a state of emergency, and actually before I was sworn in, I received word that the small business administrator was coming to town. So that was with my congressional hat. So I wasn't sworn into office yet, but what I did do was convene most of the business organizations, but I might not have included the Valley Economic Alliance. I'm so sorry. Oh, you were there. You were there. Oh, shoot. Okay. I forgot to check the list before I came in. But the point was that I called people to the table to say the small business administrator is here. Come, let's talk to her right now. And I did that because one of the things I believe I can be helpful to the city with is because I have worked on the federal level and the state level, is bringing those resources and individuals to the table. Because I think one of the things that has happened in our city is that we function as the city, everybody's pointing fingers, city points fingers at the county, vice versa, the state, the federal government, and to me, I think all that's nonsense. I think we need to be aligned. And I'm really happy to report that things are going very well with the county. You might have seen a couple of days ago on Tuesday, the city, or rather the county was put in a state of emergency around homelessness. We have absolutely linked arms, and we have a representative from the county, the CEO, at the city's Emergency Operations Center, and we are going around addressing the encampments with locked arms, city and county together. So I hope that answered the question.
Absolutely. And your priority on homelessness emergency is spot on. And we're very appreciative of you
Can't
jumping on that.
deal with the business community without, how many businesses have to deal with homelessness? I hear it all the time. And so really wanting to deal with that issue, I think helps. How do you attract businesses if people see 40,000 people on the street? Another item of good news, if you don't mind. President Biden said that he wanted to reduce homelessness in the country by 25% in 2 years. Hey, I called up and said, you want to reduce homelessness in the country? Come to LA. If you come to LA and deal with our situation, you'll meet your national goal. You'll meet your national goal. And if you want to deal with the state, you'll surpass your national goal. So when the president has an initiative like that, then it is placed in the Domestic Policy Council. And the Domestic Policy Council is headed by Ambassador Susan Rice, who I worked with very, very closely in DC. I've been trying to get her to come out here to see Ground Zero, and she's coming.
Madam Mayor, I want to ask you about business attraction. And if you don't mind, I want to tell you a little story. So when I was a mayor briefly with the city of Calabasas, I went to the National Conference of Mayors, which is a wonderful organization that I hope
Next
you'll be
week,
participating in.
I'm going.
And I sat down at breakfast, and I had the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee on this side, and I had the mayor of Columbus, Ohio on this side. And they were going through their card for the day, which had their phone calls. And each one of them made calls every day to businesses to try to attract them. Both of them that day had calls to businesses in California on their cards. And I'm not sure that our mayors historically have done that. And I'm just wondering what you see your role is in terms of business attraction and expansion here in the city of Los Angeles.
Well, you know, I think actually what we need to do, because this makes me mad when you see Texas having commercials going on our TV talking about come to Texas. I think we need to do that. I think we need really to invest some money in a PR campaign that really says LA is open for business, because the stereotype of our city and our state is that we're very hostile. And so other states and cities have grabbed our businesses. And I worked most directly with this with the film industry because of film production. I think we took the film industry for granted. This was when I was in the State House. And so one of the commitments I made was that I would get the tax credits because they were not in our budget. And so I was able to do that when I was speaker. It was one of those things that happened late at night, you know, slip something in, and we put the tax credits in. But over the years, when I worked with the film industry as a legislator, I wasn't a part of the industry, but I saw more and more production go to other states. And then what happened is those states started building their own capacity. So you have, you have New Orleans. I mean, everybody knows about Canada and New York, but you also have Atlanta. You have a number of cities around the country that have built their own infrastructure, and they took away our business permanently. And I think that we cannot allow that to happen, but I want to be aggressive about it. The other thing I heard is that when businesses have left LA, nobody actually tried to persuade them to stay. And so when I pull a cabinet together and have a deputy mayor and the other staff in place, I want to aggressively stay in contact with the business organization. So if any of you here decide to leave LA, he's going to call me. And then we'll try to persuade you to stay.
What are your plans for simplifying and streamlining the city's permit process and bureaucracy related to business?
Well, yeah, you go ahead and clap on that. You know, the same thing in terms of the planning process to build is to centralize and streamline. And, you know, one thing that happens is when rules, regulations, and laws are passed, there's never anything in place to evaluate our sunset. I mean, sometimes there is, but typically there isn't. So rules, regulations, and laws get put into place, and they might have made sense 10 years ago, and they make absolutely no sense now. So that's what I want the cabinet to do, which is to evaluate the process and to say what makes sense. Let me give you an example of one that we're all suffering from. The regulation that was put in place 50 years ago around mental illness, which is what led to people being on the street. You know, the commitment that was made, oh, institutions are terrible, we need to get rid of them. Well, okay, what are you going to put in its place? It's actually what I worry about when we started downsizing the prison population. And I pleaded, unfortunately, I didn't succeed, but please don't release people until you know where they're going to go, what they are going to do. And there is a percentage of folks in those tents that were formerly incarcerated and they got discharged from state prison to a tent. And so sometimes we just don't think things all the way through, and we don't think about the unintended consequences. The law is passed, and then we move on to the next thing.
What are your thoughts about higher density housing in historically more suburban areas like the Valley?
So, You know, one of the things that I do believe, because you all know that we need to have more housing in our city, period, is that we all have to have skin in the game. But I do think that communities can decide how skin in the game is in their particular community, and I don't think it needs to be the same. The best way to get housing built is to build it with the community. And so that's the bottom line. And I know I always talk about, anybody from Sherman Oaks here? Okay, because I always talk about Sherman Oaks. I do, because I thought Sherman Oaks was a great example. The Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association was very much opposed to SB 9 and did not want to build, in the residential areas. But the reason why I always pick on you in a positive way is because the folks had another proposal, which is the underutilized commercial strips, especially the outdoor malls. I think that's a great example. You didn't say no, you said different. And that, to me, is what skin in the game is. Because what I fear is that all housing then gets built in inner city areas because of the perception. The problem is the inner city areas are overcrowded. And some of those areas actually have registered as the most overcrowded in the country, which is hard to believe, actually. But you have people, 2 and 3 families living together, which is fine if that's what you choose, but people are doing that to pay rent. So how do we all have skin in the game, but how do we respect neighborhoods' creativity, respect and encourage neighborhoods' creativity?
The Valley Economic Alliance is a 5-city regional organization: Los Angeles, Burbank, Glendale, Calabasas, and San Fernando. And of course, the county of Los Angeles has 88 cities, and then many more beyond in our region. And I wanted to know what your plans are for seeking regional solutions. A lot of these solutions, everyone looks at you, you're the mayor of LA, and they just sort of assume you're in charge of everything. And you got all these other cities.
As though LA is not big enough.
Got all these other cities and agencies to deal with. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are about how we deal with these regional issues and how you see your role as you are the regional leader.
No, I appreciate that question because I am a very, very big proponent of regional approaches. I do not believe that we can solve homelessness without a regional approach. And the way things are structured right now, which leads to the finger pointing, is you have LA County and LA City, and we ignore 87 other cities. And I know our head of Metro understands that, Ms. Wiggins. And one thing about Metro, and I'm trying to look at Metro, it wouldn't be exactly the same, but I do think when it comes to homelessness, I'm just using that as an example. The county provides the services, the city does the building, but we need to be fused together because if we just try to address it in Los Angeles, then the solution can easily be send these people to 87 other cities, and that's no solution. And so it needs to be a regional approach. And I think that a lot of issues need to be approached regionally. So I'm going to be looking at your alliance for how you do that from a business perspective, because it's the Valley Regional Economic Alliance, but what lessons can we learn regarding the business community through a alliance that would encompass all of LA? I mean, just think about it. And then this really would get to me in DC, because it's like, LA County, 88 cities, 11 million people. Do you know how many states we are? and some states, it's like, that's the population of a neighborhood. And you have 2 senators. So I don't think that we maximize our power. So if you just think about our 88 cities, our congressional delegation is almost 20 members of Congress. There are states that only have 1 member of Congress. And if you think of our legislature, it's always really funny on swearing-in day, whether you were talking about California with Congress. If you watch the vote for Speaker, which I don't know, even though I was so glad I wasn't there, I was transfixed at the TV watching it. Well, when they called up the California delegation to escort in the Speaker, the whole room cleared out. Because that's how big California is with 53 representatives. So I think the regional approach is so important when it comes to resources and power. And we do not take advantage of it.
We have time for one last question.
Oh.
All right? And the Valley has always felt that it did not get its fair share of resources and attention from City Hall. I can tell you, growing up in the Valley, I remember this from being a little kid, this was a general thought. How do you plan to make sure that the Valley, and that all residents throughout the city, get their fair share of services and attention from City Hall?
Well, I certainly heard that from the Valley, but again, I will compliment the Valley on your sophistication and level of organization. And because of that, I think it's going to be very easy to work with my administration. And I will have dedicated staff focused on the Valley. And it'll probably be people that you are very well aware of, because those are the best people. I don't want to have people who are focused on the Valley that you guys have never heard of. It should be somebody from your organizations. But I will tell you, many, many years ago, as you mentioned, in 1990, I started Community Coalition, and we were dealing with a lot of land use issues in South LA, especially after the civil unrest. And so we would go down to City Hall, but we learned from the Valley organization. Actually, I go back to the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. Because I don't even know what you were fighting then, but you were mobilized and going down to City Hall. And so we linked on to you, the past president that passed away.
Richard Close.
Yes. So Richard Close, I worked with him in the early 90s, mimicking what was happening here because of the way that you guys fought for resources, because South LA, of course, feels the same way. So know that you will have my support by being at the table in my administration.
Madam Mayor, there is already a feeling here in this room and throughout the city that a new day has come. And we are really looking forward to your leadership. And here at the Valley Economic Alliance, we are here to assist in any way. And we're doing great things out here in the Valley. We look forward. We're so grateful you came today, and we look forward to partnering with you throughout your term in office.
Anytime you invite me, I will be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Karen Bass.